we're going to talk to Dr. Beth Fitzgerald is next. She's a physical therapist, and she's going to be talking to us about pelvic floor health. This is one of those things that I feel like a lot of people don't know that the help is available to them until after they've been in pain, or even sometimes not even then. So this is one of those things that when Sarah and I first imagined the parent trip, this was a non-negotiable role that we wanted.
Yeah.
Because we just knew that we needed somebody to talk to people about pelvic floor health in a educated and helpful way, supportive and all.
Yeah, I mean, the number of times that you see jokes or memes or conversations about like moms peeing a little when they sneeze and how that's just normal. Like, we just need to change this whole viewpoint. Like, this is not, you know?
Yeah, totally. And to help us do that, we've got Dr. Beth with us today. So I'm going to go ahead and invite her to join us so she can tell you a little bit more about how to help recover after you've had a baby.
Mm-hmm. Man, that moment after birth, when you first realize like how your abs don't work anymore, that was mind-blowing.
Hello, Beth.
Hi.
Wow.
Thank you for joining us today.
Just making sure I can see you guys. Okay.
Well, you can see us, but we're about to disappear so that you can do your thing.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And you can hear me okay?
You sound great.
Yep, perfect.
All right.
Okay, everybody, here's Beth.
All right. Hi. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to put this together. I know it has been a ton of work, and I'm really happy to be included here. It was really fun to listen to Dr. Molly. I just have to say that she honestly worked wonders with my little ones when they were tiny, and it made such a difference for all of us. So it's exciting to follow her. So I'm Beth, and I work with Sound Body Physical Therapy. I'm a physical therapist specializing in women's health and pelvic floor dysfunction. So my goal is to help you and your body navigate growing, delivering, and then caring for a tiny human, as well as taking care of yourself along the way. So it's just a small task. Not everyone I treat has had or will have a baby, but since this is a parent trip, I'll focus my time here today. And a couple things I'm going to focus on are, what does it mean to specialize in women's health and pelvic floor dysfunction? Who should consider seeing a women's health PT, and what you might gain from working with me. So what does it mean to specialize in women's health and pelvic floor? As a physical therapist, I'm your movement specialist, and I focus on whole body wellness, how you move and how you interact with your ever-changing environment. And goodness knows, when you add a little one to your life, your environment changes a lot in a lot of different ways. So in terms of pelvic health and wellness, I've done specialized training to treat the pelvic floor. I treat people across the prenatal and postpartum spectrum. We take a closer look at how those muscles relate to the rest of the body. They have a lot of important functions, supporting your abdominal organs like your uterus and your bladder and your bowels, coordinating with your core muscles and the rest of your body. So a few things my treatments focus on include muscle weakness or overly tight muscles, which can sometimes be even more of a problem, incontinence or leaking urine, round ligament pain, abdominal separation, cesarean recovery, pain with intimacy, postural changes, pelvic hip or low back pain, because everything's connected, and the pelvic floor has such a big effect on the rest of the body. There's a whole lot of tiny muscles down there that do really important things for us all day, every day, and they deserve some attention. We're also really aware when they don't do what we expect them to do, like hold urine or hold in fecal matter. And it can be a little hard to talk about it, and it's also hard to know where to go and start getting some help. So that's why I'm excited to be here and share a little bit about what I do. During an appointment, I talk with you about your concerns, your complaints, any goals or specific questions you have. Then I take a look at how you're moving. How are you walking, nursing, carrying your little one, sleeping with your little one, transitioning from sit to stand or squatting, focusing on any movements that may not feel good. From there, I take a look at individual muscles, how they're moving and the strength, how specific joints are moving or maybe not moving, and how any possible incisions or scar tissue are doing in the recovery process. So, one really common question I get is, are Kegels good for me? And that's a fantastic question. And the answer is Maybe. Sometimes they're really good and they're really important. And sometimes people hold tension in their pelvic floor, and Kegels actually make their symptoms a lot worse. And you don't know until you get your pelvic floor assessed. So, as Sarah mentioned earlier, it's really important to differentiate between normal and common. So it's super common to leak a little urine after having a baby, but that doesn't mean it's normal, because it's not. And you can get help so you don't leak urine. Bringing me to who is appropriate to see a women's health physical therapist. So anyone who's currently pregnant or has been pregnant. I think PT is really underutilized around pregnancy. There's a small portion of us that specialize in women's health and pelvic floor, but someone sprains their ankle or pulls their hamstring and people don't think twice about going to PT. Yet pregnancy has a huge impact on our musculoskeletal system, a little more than spraining an ankle. And birth is a big event no matter how your baby chooses to enter the world. So it's going to require recovery at many different levels, and it's appropriate to get support for that. Every journey is different, absolutely, but I think it's safe to say that your musculoskeletal system is going to be challenged in ways it hasn't before, both before and after birth, for quite some time, even if this hasn't been your first pregnancy. So it really does vary person to person. I love to see people a few times when they're pregnant to get to know you, to get to know your body, address any concerns, complaints, talk about things you can do to keep yourself feeling good while pregnant, as well as what you can do right after your little one arrives, before you're getting out of the house for any appointments. It's good to go over that while your brain is somewhat rested and somewhat clear, and just to think about a few things ahead of time in terms of setup. So we're really talking about small things to help your body start recovering, things to keep your eye out for. There are things that are signs that you could benefit from getting in for treatment a little bit sooner. Are you feeling heaviness in your pelvic floor? And if so, what does that mean? And what should you do about it? You could have organ prolapse. Are you leaking urine and it's not getting better? Because it is common and normal right after pregnancy, but that should start to resolve pretty quickly. How are you sitting when you feed your baby and when you hold your baby? And is that okay? Are your shoulders up to here? Sometimes we get into some pretty funny positions when we're feeding a baby or to get them to fall asleep, and then you don't dare move. So moving into postpartum, I see people anywhere from a few weeks to months or even years later. Around 6 weeks is a great time to come in. At that point, we usually focus on a thorough pelvic floor assessment, look at a few simple exercises and how to safely increase your activity levels for activities you desire. There's a lot of problem solving and just making sure your body is getting the right support, because some parts of our body heal a lot faster than other parts of our body. I also tend to see people more around 3 months postpartum. You're feeling better, everyone's getting a little more sleep, hopefully. You're getting out of the house and moving more, and suddenly you become a little bit more aware of your body, and it doesn't feel the same. So there's really not much to lose. Some people come in for just a couple visits and get information and make a few changes, and other people come in more frequently. So what might you gain from working with a physical therapist specializing in pelvic floor? A whole lot of knowledge and hopefully feeling better. So some good tips for moving functionally and safely and minimizing pain. Altered movement and pain tend to go hand in hand eventually, and pain can be exhausting. Parenting is also exhausting. At least it was, or actually still is, for me. So you don't need a double whammy. During pregnancy, there's a lot of obvious changes to the body, and there's also some subtle ones as well. Postural changes, weight distribution changes, ligament laxity, as well as changes in muscle length, just to name a few. And some of those continue while nursing into the postpartum period. And then you look at those babies, they just keep getting heavier and wanting to be carried. So we also look at that. So a couple specific things that I focus on prenatally are staying active in whatever form that is important to you, staying strong, minimizing pain, appropriate supports, so looking at belts, pillows, etc. Education for taking care of your pelvic floor in the early postpartum period, how to have a bowel movement post-baby that isn't scary, because it's actually really important to talk about that. Postpartum, some of the things I tend to focus on are strength and integrity of the abdominals after 9 months of being stretched, pelvic floor function, and pelvic floor muscle re-education. So what is a proper Kegel for you? Addressing any muscle or joint pain because you're going to be moving differently, checking for a diastasis or an abdominal separation from having that baby in your belly and helping to reduce it, checking scar tissue mobility and healing for any cesarean scars or any tearing, retraining to decrease incontinence, identifying possible prolapse, addressing pelvic pain, looking into breastfeeding positions because you do those for hours and hours a day, lifting and carrying recommendations for what works for you and your family and the baby and carriers that you have, and slowly getting back to the things that you love to do. So kind of to wrap this up, I think listen to those little aches and sore muscles and come in and get help so you can keep caring for yourself and your little ones. The good news is there's a lot of small things we can do that add up to pretty big changes over time and how our body is feeling and moving. That also means there's a lot of small things we do repeatedly that can lead to not feeling so good. Think about breastfeeding positions again. I'm a super active person and I always have been. I've always filled my free time with moving and exercising. I have twins who are nearly 2 and my body grew those babies and has cared for them since. My movement profile and the demands on my body has shifted greatly, and the self-care my body needs has shifted a lot too. I still get a lot of activity, but it looks different now, and that's okay. I will say it's important to reach out to practitioners. I certainly did, many of whom you've heard from today, for support. I'm a physical therapist, and I really appreciated and honestly needed the support I got from my practitioners pre and postpartum. So I think kind of the biggest take-home message is that you don't have to figure this out all by yourself. Portland is an amazing community of practitioners that specialize in all of these things. And so, find the things that you need and find those practitioners and don't be afraid to reach out. So consider consulting with a physical therapist who specializes in pelvic floor. If you're pregnant or if you've had a baby and you have any of the concerns we've talked about today, if you want to get some specific information about your body and how to keep your body and movements feeling good. So that being said, what do appointments look like right now? And our office, we're currently doing all telehealth visits, but that being said, we are transitioning to a mix of in-person and telehealth appointments. We've had pretty amazing feedback from our patients about telehealth visits, so we're hoping that will be something we continue to offer moving forward. That being said, it's really important to, for evaluations and some of the hands-on work to have those appointments. We have 3 therapists in our office and we have a really big space. So we're just kind of currently working on how to make that the safest for everyone and good long-term. So that being said, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or you think you might benefit from working with a physical therapist. I definitely spend a lot more time on my email these days, responding to questions and concerns, and I'm honestly happy to take any emails and questions. So yeah, I think with that, I don't know if there were any questions, but
got a couple for you.
Okay.
I've got one in the chat that says, "This sounds really amazing. Do you take health insurance? I'm struggling to move, stand, and sometimes even sit. I'm 18 weeks pregnant."
Absolutely. We accept all insurance companies and we are in network with the majority of them. That being said, everything is different per insurance plan. So the best thing to do is really reach out, email, give us your plan. We will make a call and verify your benefits and let you know what co-payments and co-insurances look like. And that being said, during this time, we also, we're not letting finances be a limitation to getting care. And so we're providing care to pretty much everyone that we can. So please reach out.
That's awesome. We had another question, which looked like it got cut off in the chat, but I think the gist of it basically was, how far past your pregnancy can you kind of address some of these issues? Like if it's been a while since you've had your baby, are you able to still kind of help?
Absolutely. I mean, I see people 30 to 40 years postpartum for incontinence issues, which I feel pretty certain are at least partially linked to pregnancy. And then I've also worked on people's cesarean incisions. I saw someone who was 65 and had her child when she was 30. And we had some pretty, with her, we had some pretty dramatic results. So
Wow.
I don't think there's any, like, once you've had a baby, I think your postpartum, your body has grown and delivered a baby.
Wow.
So
Yeah. And then I just wanted to let you know, someone else wrote in and said, I wish this information was easily available with my first. She just turned 13. So glad to know it for the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it really is, it's really underutilized. And even in the world of PT, people don't know that much about what people do in women's health. It's just not common enough yet. So
Yeah.
trying to get the word out there.
You're doing a great job. Thank you so much, Dr. Beth.
Thank
I
you
really
guys.
appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you.
I'm going to share her info for everybody.
Yeah. Beth, if you are still watching, we just had another question come in that I'm going to say out loud and maybe you can answer in the chat. She says, for postpartum cesarean scars, can you tell me more about how C-section scars affect women's health afterwards? So Becky, I see this comment. We've got Beth's information up here on the screen. She might be able to put a little bit of that information into the chat, but it's a great question and a big question. So maybe it's worth reaching out to Dr. Beth through either her website or one of these social media avenues.
Yeah.
So.